Hello and welcome to Hank Games Without Hank. My name is John Green, manager of the AFC Wimbledon Wimbly Womblys. Today taking on Cardiff City, one of the most interesting teams in the Football League because they're traditionally known as the Bluebirds, but then they got bought by a guy who wanted to rebrand them as the Red Team, so they had to start wearing red. And then he wanted to a dragon, a red dragon, to be their thing instead of a bluebird, and Cardiff City fans just didn't buy any of the new uniforms. They were just like, no, we're not going to buy this new shirt, and they sang we'll always be blue, where Cardiff City will always be blue. And sure enough, eventually the owner relented because owners like to sell shirts. I can say that actually from experience because I myself own a merch company. We love selling shirts. DFTBA.com. Shirts available now in every size and no matter what your interests are. So also AFC Wimbledon scarves available with the DFTBA Nerdfighteria logo on them for just $10. Today I'm going to talk about the future of technology and how freaked out I am by it. The singularity, artificial intelligence, self-driving cars, etc. Let's start with self-driving cars. I think that's unambiguously good news. Right now, 50,000 people... How many... Meredith, will you Google how many people a year die from car accidents? It's a lot. And when you include the fact that people who die in car accidents are disproportionately young, it's even worse. Like, there's a statistic called disability-adjusted life years, and when you include the disability-adjusted life years affected by car accidents, it's actually extremely high. It's like a proper public health crisis, but one that we never talk about because it's not that easy to fix, and also because it's not that politically exciting. People don't usually get super fired up about car safety, but they really... Oh, it's a fantastic goal in the first minute! Everything is beautiful and nothing hurts. Autobio Akinfenwa! Oh, so nice to be able to just cross it in and have Autobio Akinfenwa on the end of the cross. Have you found out yet, Meredith? Yeah. 35,000 people a year die in car accidents. That number probably wouldn't go down to zero in a world of self-driving cars, but it would go way, 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 way down. And that would be great. So I'm very excited about self-driving cars, and I think that 20 or 30 years from now, we're going to be like, wow, I can't believe that technology was so long in coming. It has saved so many lives. Also, so many hours that you will now be able to spend reading or ingesting media instead of driving on your commute. And I think it'll be part of a larger... I just want to point out that I just properly cleared the ball, maybe for the first time in my FIFA career. It'll be part of a larger, movement. Obviously, it'll cost some jobs, Uber drivers, cab drivers, and that's going to be a part of, I think, what the future looks like, which is that a lot of jobs will no longer exist due to artificial intelligence. CGP Grey has a great video about this. I'm a little less bearish on the future than CGP Grey is, I think. I think that people traditionally find jobs. They find ways, over time. We've often predicted that the end of jobs was coming, and people have found ways to remain economically productive, and I think that will probably continue to be the case. Oh, it's great! Oh my God, what a finish. What a fantastic finish on the volley. Akinfenwa, 2/3 of the way to a first half hat trick. He's big, he's round, he's worth 10 million pounds. Akinfenwa. We got to pick this guy up for our FIFA 17 team. I mean, look at that finish. Just as cool as the other side of the pillow. So I think that, So one way of looking at human history is that for 245,000 years or 240,000 years, we all had the same job, which was hunter-gatherer, and there was not a ton of specialization of labor. There might have been some. There might have been some people who did more gathering, some people who did more tool making. It depended on the community. There might have been, some people who focused on medicine, but probably not as a full-time gig. And then for about like another 8,000 years, there were like two jobs, or maybe there was a little more than two, but 95% of people worked in one of two jobs, either hunter-gatherer or farmer. And then there's been like the last 400, 300 years, depending on how you count, where suddenly there have been a lot of jobs. And if you look at it that way, jobs are a pretty new idea, and it's not at all clear that they are like a great idea. You know? Oh, it's a goal. It's a goal. I think it might have been an own goal. My favorite kind of goal. Oh, it's fantastic. Oh, look at this. Let's take another look to check to see if it was an own goal. My favorite kind of goal. It goes in off the goalie, and I think it might have been going in anyway. So it's hard to know, but that definitely went in off the goalie. Wow, really great job by Bartram getting his leg around that. Really proud of him right now. He's had a tough season. We can't actually see his face through the Cardiff City player, but this, at this point, looks like a dominant performance. It looks like we are going to be just fine. It's going to be great for our goal difference, which is always welcome. So maybe I'm wrong about jobs, and it's just that jobs are not a great idea or are not going to be a long-term idea, and we're going to figure out something else to do with our time that doesn't involve jobs. That would involve a radical reimagining of the economy, of course. But whatever, we've done that before. It's not a huge deal in the scheme of things. I'm not that freaked out about that. I am pretty freaked out about the long-term future of humans, but, you know, there's never really been a great time in terms of feeling really good about humanity, so I also try to remind myself of that. But here's why I'm freaked out. I do think, for a long time, I used to think that the pace of innovation wasn't really speeding up, but that it's just that we didn't do a good job of paying attention. We don't do a good job of paying attention to the past, and we don't do a good job of contextualizing our own lives. And, you know, there's a limited historical record, so it looks to us like the pace of change isn't really speeding up. I no longer think that. I think that I was wrong about that currently. I may go back to thinking that I was wrong. You know, who knows? Who knows what the future holds? Oh, Akinfenwa, first half hat trick. Oh, that close. But I at this point, I do think the pace of change is speeding up and has been speeding up significantly, you know, really for the last couple, at least for the last 1,000 years, but really kind of for the last 2,000 years. You know, over time, humans have started, you know, we've formed bigger and bigger communities. At this point, we just have one global community, but we've gone from being in bands of a few dozen people to, you know, being in empires, to being one connected world, after the Columbian Exchange, starting, you know, around the beginning of the 16th century CE. And that pace certainly seems to be picking up. You know, when I feel like when I play out the string of what life in 200 or 300 years looks like, if that continues, it gets pretty weird, right? Like, at what point are we going to be able, for instance, to upload a human consciousness? And if we do, what does that mean for... Well, A, what does that mean for immortality or for mortality? And B, what does it mean for humanness? If there's a way to... Oh, John Green. Frustrating. Frustrating not to see John Green finish that better. He's a gigantic Ginger McDonald. You would think that he could finish in that situation. So I get freaked out thinking about things like artificial intelligence and the uploading of one's consciousness. But then sometimes I think, like, maybe virtual reality will just be so good that the pace of change will slow down. I mean, the other, so it's true that the pace of... that was a great shot. The pace of change has been, I think it's true that the pace of change has been going up pretty steadily for the last at least few hundred years. But that doesn't mean that will always remain the case. Like, it's one of the things that makes the future so devilishly hard to predict is, the fact that patterns shift, and so precedents don't make sense anymore. I do think, however, that I don't know, by the time of my like expected death, I hope that I live a long life, but I would expect to die, I don't know, somewhere around like 2050, maybe the 2050s to the 2060s. I do think that human life will be radically different because of technology. I'm not worried about like whether humans will still exist or anything, but I do think life will be very different. And it does freak me out a little bit, but on the other hand, in lots of ways, life will be better. Like, it would be really great if we didn't have 30-something thousand people die a year from car accidents, and many more people suffer disabling injuries. And so I think, in some ways it's up to us what the future looks like. In some ways it's not, and I think those are the ways that it feels scary. If it's not up to us, then what does that mean about the future and everything? But I think, yeah. So I guess the only other thing I wanted to say, my other kind of overarching concern, is that we almost never actually think about this stuff while it's happening, right? Like, we don't think about the implications for our lives. Like, when I started using the internet in 1994, I was, there were a lot of people talking about what the internet was going to be and what the internet was going to be like. And I was in a lot of those conversations, and they were incredibly exciting because at the time the internet felt like it was going to be hugely important. Well, I mean, obviously it has been hugely important. It felt like it was going to be a revolution. Speaking of revolutions, somebody just scored a hat trick. Can you not hear me yelling? Oh, he's the biggest man in football. He's the strongest man in football. And today, he's the goldenest boot in football. Look at this finishing. Oh, God, he went the other way. It was beautiful. There was just no way anybody was ready for that. He could have passed the ball in that situation, but he chose not to because he knew what he wanted, and what he wanted was a hot slice of hat trick. But anyway, in 1994, when these conversations were starting out, there were people saying, like, I worry about what an advertising-funded internet is going to mean for the architecture of conversation in the future. Like, those conversations did exist. I remember having them. But, like, not nearly enough to change that architecture. I mean, this is difficult to imagine because history always feels inevitable once it's happened. But if you could, like, pause and imagine what the internet would look like if it weren't funded by advertising, if it weren't dependent upon, if value on the internet weren't dependent upon the number of people who watched something, but instead on how much they valued what they watched. Well, that would be a vastly different internet, right? But, like, come on, Dicko. Oh, Dicko! John Green! Dicko! Oh, frustration. But it could have been, the internet could have been that way. The internet could have been a publicly funded institution like the BBC, or at least there could be a BBC of the internet. In some ways there is, it's the BBC, but it could have been like much larger and different. I'm not saying that would have been better necessarily, just that it would mark a different kind of, a different architecture for the internet, which in turn would have led to a different architecture for our online conversations, and ultimately maybe, I think, for our offline conversations as well, which I feel like are more and more mimicking the kind of conversations we have online rather than the other way around. Like 1994, when I was talking to people on the internet, I was doing it in the context of the way I talk to people in real life. Now, I think when I'm talking to people in real life, in some ways I'm doing it in the context of the way I talk to people on the internet. So I just think it's good to think about, it's good to talk about, and probably ultimately it's good to worry about. Thanks for watching. Best wishes.